Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into, well, a really fascinating bit of history where watchmaking meets space exploration. We're talking about watches in space, specifically one very special piece, the first Omega in space, or FOIS watch. So for this deep dive, we're using a detailed review of this watch, and our mission really is to unpack what makes it tick, its history, its modern features, and how it compares to other big names.
Yeah, it's a great story because this watch, it doesn't just nod to history, it sort of reimagines it. What's really interesting is how it manages to blend this deep heritage, almost movie-like, really, with very modern watchmaking. It gives you a fresh angle on a classic design.
Okay, let's get into it then. The story of the FOIS, it actually starts quite a while back, doesn't it? 1962.
That's the one, 1962. That's the key moment. You've got astronaut Wally Schirra, the Mercury-Atlas 8 mission, and he's wearing his personal Omega Speedmaster, reference 2998. And crucially, this was the first Omega worn in space. Not just any Omega, but the first one. It really put Omega on the map for space travel history.
And Omega's been really smart about this history. They didn't just archive it, they brought it back. There was an initial version in 2012, the FOIS 1, we could call it, with a black dial. But what we're really focusing on today is the newer one, the FOIS 2. It came out in October 2024. This revived the line after, about 4 years? And it landed, as our source said, amid an absolute firestorm of buzzy releases. So this is the current one we're looking at closely. So let's dive into that hands-on feel. What makes the FOIS 2 really stand out when you actually, handle it? Starting with the case, it's 39.7 millimeters across, which is exactly the same as Schirra's original 2998. The lug-to-lug distance is 48 millimeter. Now, interestingly, this means it doesn't necessarily wear that much smaller than the standard moonwatch, despite the smaller diameter on paper. Case height is 13.4 millimeter. Our source mentioned it feels kind of imperceptible on the wrist, but is that always good? Does being imperceptible maybe change its wrist presence compared to something with a bit more heft?
That's a fair point. I mean, comfort is great. It feels balanced. But yeah, some people might prefer that slightly thicker, more tool watch feel, especially for Speedmaster. But for the FOIS, I think that slimness really plays into its vintage side. It wears more like an elegant chronograph, Even with its space history, it feels like a deliberate choice leaning into the 60s vibe.
I can see that. And speaking of vintage, those straight lugs are a really big deal, aren't they? Totally different from the twisted lyre lugs on the standard moonwatch. Plus, you have the guardless crown and pushers. Big difference in the more integrated design on the moonwatch. It all adds up to something that feels, properly vintage. One review said it oozes a certain special something. But practically, does a guardless crown make you nervous? Is it more prone to getting knocked, or is that just part of the charm?
It's mostly charm, I'd say. It's authentic to the era before crown guards were really standard on tool watches. Sure, maybe it's theoretically a bit more exposed, but it also contributes to that slimmer profile we talked about. It's less bulky. For a watch like this, the FOIS, it's really about capturing that mid-century design accurately. It's maybe less about being built for, extreme rough and tumble today. It's a trade-off for the aesthetic.
Makes sense. Yeah. Now let's talk about the bracelet on the FOIS too, because that's a major feature, right? Especially since the first FOIS didn't have it. This flat link bracelet, it starts at 19 millimeter at the lugs and tapers quite dramatically, down to 14.5 millimeters at the clasp. You've got polished outer links, and the center link has this nice vertical brushing that echoes the case sides. And the clasp itself is really well done, milled with that old school Omega logo, polished and brushed bits. But honestly, the best part for me, that little 3 millimeter quick adjustment, no tools needed. Just makes it so much more practical day to day, adds a real quality touch. Okay, moving on to the dial. You're looking through a domed sapphire crystal, and it's got that little Omega logo etched right in the center, which is pretty cool. The dial color is described as a lovely subtle blue-gray. It's got a sunray brush finish, and it's direct nod to Wally Schirra's original flight suit, apparently. Layout is classic Speedmaster. Tri-register recessed subdials, running seconds at 9, 12-hour counter at 6, 30-minute counter at 3. The chrono hands are white for contrast. Running minutes in the alpha-shaped hour-minute hands are polished metal. And then there's the lume. It uses what's often called fauxtina, that faux-aged look, on the markers and hands. The review says it's tasteful, decent, but maybe not as bright as the lume on the standard moonwatch. So this fauxtina, it always makes me think of pre-distressed jeans. Is it a trend you think will last, or just a phase for Omega here?
Yeah, good comparison. Fauxtina. It's always debated, isn't it? Does it add warmth or is it just fake aging? But for the FOIS, I feel it's less about jumping on a trend and more about Connecting it authentically to that mid-century origin, it really ties into that specific period look. Even if, yeah, maybe you sacrifice a little bit of lume brightness compared to modern superluminova, some collectors really want that vintage vibe. And beyond the lume, you've got other vintage touches, the applied vintage Omega logo at 12, and that caseback engraving the hippocampus. The whole feel is very retro. It completes the picture nicely. And, linking this back, it really shows how Omega is trying to balance that history with modern tech, which brings us perfectly to what's inside the watch. Because despite that very vintage look outside, the FOIS II runs on a totally modern engine. It's the Omega Caliber 3861. This movement debuted back in 2019. It's the same one you find in the current Speedmaster Moonwatch. And it's not just any movement, it's META certified, master chronometer, which means it's gone through some seriously tough independent tests by the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology. We're talking the accuracy of 0 to +5 seconds a day and major resistance to magnetism, really useful in everyday life. It also has Omega's coaxial escapement. That's a big deal, reduces friction, improves stability, potentially longer service intervals too. It's manual wind, of course, beats at 3 Hertz. 50-hour power reserve, has a free spin balance, silicon balance, and hacking seconds, so you can set the time precisely. Now, you don't get to see all this through the case back. It's solid with that vintage engraving, but Omega says it's finished nicely inside Geneva stripes, black polished screws. Hidden beauty, I guess.
Okay, so modern guts in a vintage suit. What does this mean for you, the listener, if you're trying to choose an Omega Speedmaster? This leads us to the big question. FOIS, or the standard Moonwatch. The classic choice. And what's really interesting here is the price. The FOIS take $8,900 on the strap, $8,300 on that nice bracelet. The Speedmaster Professional with the sapphire crystal, the comparable model, is $8,000 on strap, $8,400 on bracelet. So they're basically the same price, only $100 different. We're not comparing it to the cheaper Hesalite Moonwatch here, just keeping it like for like. And like we said earlier, okay, the FOIS is 39.7 millimeter, the Moonwatch is 42 millimeter. But the lug-to-lug is almost identical. So how different they feel on the wrist might not be as dramatic as those diameter numbers suggest. So what really sets them apart then, for the FOIS, you've got that unique vintage look. Straight lugs, no crown guards, that lovely blue-gray dial, the old logo. And yeah, that flat link bracelet is a big plus. Just has this specific character, that certain special something the review mentioned. A kind of bottled magic. The Moonwatch, on the other hand, well, with the sapphire version, you get to see the movement. For some people, that's huge, a non-negotiable maybe. And the lume is generally brighter. So who is each watch really for? Initially, people often thought, okay, the standard 3861 Moonwatch, that's your first proper luxury watch, maybe your only one. And the FOIS was perhaps more for the collector, someone getting their second or third speedy. But the sources we looked at suggest maybe that's shifting, or at least it's not so clear-cut. The FOIS, with its visual distinctiveness, that dial, those lugs, and its very specific, very real history as the first Omega in space, it makes a strong case. Maybe for someone who wants a daily watch that's a bit different, tells a quieter story. Or even as a one-watch collection piece, if you value that unique blend of history and style. It's less obvious, perhaps.
Exactly. It brings up a really good point for anyone considering either watch. Because they're both fantastic pieces of design and engineering, ultimately it just boils down to personal preference, doesn't it? What speaks to you. Good design is good design, period. But they offer slightly different flavors.
And that, I think, wraps up our really interesting deep dive into the Omega, first Omega in space. Its history, its design, what makes it special today.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider. Given how personal choosing a watch is and how these small design details create that magic, what really resonates most with you? Is it the direct historical link? A specific aesthetic feature? The modern movement inside? What tells the story you want on your wrist?
Yeah, it's worth thinking about how appreciating those nuances, beyond just the specs on paper, really deepens the enjoyment of watches like these, pieces that have so much history baked into them.